benzodiazepines, because they can cause respiratory depression. So these are the drugs which you have to avoid. Similarly, in hepatic impairment, those who have chronic liver disease, you should avoid potentially hepatotoxic drugs and also sedative drugs. So valproic acid and phenytoin sodium, carbamazepine, they are all potentially hepatotoxic drugs. So they should be considered only if the primary or more safer drugs are not having desired effect. So what we do in chronic liver disease, we usually prefer either topiramate or levetiracetam over the other drugs which can be hepatotoxic. Then if the person has porphyria, then you have to avoid carbamazepine, lamotrigine, phenobarbital, phenytoin. These are drugs which can aggravate the problem of porphyria. Liver transplantation, again you would not like to increase the hepatotoxicity, so all the drugs which can cause hepatotoxicity should be avoided. Then those with kidney transplantation, any anti-epileptic drug having renal impairment which can aggravate renal impairment should be avoided. Bone marrow transplanted patients should be avoided the drugs which can cause bone marrow suppression like carbamazepine, phenytoin sodium, phenobarbital. They all can have effect on bone marrow. So those who have already compromised function should not be given the bone marrow suppressants. Then hypothyroidism, again you have to avoid certain drugs like carbamazepine, phenobarbital, phenytoin. Then osteoporosis, phenytoin sodium has a antagonistic effect. It has a causes problem with the calcium metabolism and vitamin D. Those who have osteoporosis already should the phenytoin should not be prescribed. Then those who have obesity, they should receive the drug which does not cause weight gain, and valproic acid is one, including pregabalin, which can cause significant weight gain and can be a problem in these patients. Then stroke patients, again you would not allow any drug which could interact with antihypertensives, diabetics and sedative. So benzodiazepine again you have to avoid. Brain tumors, pregabalin and phenobarbital, again they can produce various behavioral abnormalities, so should be avoided. Choice of anti-epileptic drug, there are so many drugs available, how to choose? So the common syndromes that we see, the primary generalized epilepsy, what to treat, what is the first line of treatment? Well, sodium valproate has been recommended as a first line of therapy in all the patients of generalized epilepsy and the patients who have multiple seizure types. Sodium valproate has the ability to control various seizures. So if we have various types of seizures, or those who have primary generalized seizure, valproic acid is drug of choice. Second choice would be obviously any drug including levetiracetam, phenobarbital. Phenytoin would be avoided, especially if a patient has myoclonic seizures. Drugs like phenytoin sodium, carbamazepine should be avoided. Then what to choose in partial epilepsy? I think carbamazepine as a standard recommendation is the drug of choice for partial epilepsy. For myoclonic epilepsy, again the first choice would be sodium valproate, followed by levetiracetam, then phenobarbital, then oxcarbazepine should be avoided, that it could aggravate myoclonic epilepsy. So basically we have to first classify the patient what kind of epilepsy he is having and choose the drug which is most appropriate. Now as I have already discussed that there are drugs which can aggravate myoclonic seizures like phenytoin, carbamazepine, gabapentin, oxcarbazepine, vigabatrin, tiagabin. So all these are drugs which should be avoided in patients who have myoclonic epilepsy. Then there could be so many side effects which have been reported with various drugs and their combination or in isolation. So we should be able to know what are the common side effects so that we can either tell the patients about the possibility and further monitor these patients. Then what are the other modes of treatment besides anti-epileptic drug therapy? Those who do not recover or those whose seizures are not able to control, then various options are there. In medical therapies there are various newer drugs which are coming up, which have already arrived. We can try those, and if they are not successful, then ketogenic diet, which has been recommended in children with all kinds of seizures, if they are not responding to standard therapies, then we can try ketogenic diet in children. Then surgical option is always preferred in those who have drug refractory epilepsy. It could be resective surgery, it could be multiple subpial transection, or it could be vagus nerve implantation or stimulation. Then there is very experimental treatment options there, which include thalamic stimulation, stereotactic radiosurgery, and responsive neurostimulators. Now, vagus nerve stimulation has evolved into a very effective treatment option in those who have drug resistant epilepsy. In this, a stimulator is implanted into the electrodes are implanted in the neck around the left vagus nerve, and it is connected to a programmer or a stimulator which is implanted in a subcutaneously below the clavicle. So, by stimulating vagus nerve, it has been found to stimulate the afferent fibers of vagus nerve, which go to the nucleus of tractus solitarius, and they have a three mode of actions. One, that they alter the level of norepinephrine going to the locus coeruleus. They can cause increased level of GABA, and vagus nerve stimulation has also been found to cause alteration of reticular activating system. So, by these three modes of action, the vagus nerve has been found to be effective in controlling seizures of most of the patients. Now, various studies have undergone about the treatment efficacy of vagus nerve stimulation, and it has been found that it got approval on the basis of various studies. In 1997, FDA approved the use of vagus nerve stimulation in refractory epilepsy. It has recently got approval for refractory depression, and more than 55,000 patients have been treated worldwide for drug refractory epilepsy. And the first controlled study for vagus nerve stimulation showed significant advantage of high frequency stimulation of vagus nerve, and it is the recommended procedure for refractory epilepsy. The other study also found that 27% patients recovered or were able to achieve seizure freedom with high frequency stimulation. So, high frequency stimulation is the target of vagus nerve stimulation. Now, the positive effect of vagus nerve stimulation builds up. If we see over 5 years, then gradually the seizure freedom achieved as we go towards the prolonged therapy with vagus nerve stimulation, the chances of achieving seizure freedom has been as high as 50% in 40% of the refractory patients. So, it is a very good treatment option available to these. Ketogenic diet is another good option, especially in children. It is an alternative to therapy for intractable epilepsy, and it is basically rich in fats. Ketogenic diet is rich in fats and low in carbohydrates and proteins. So, it gained importance recently when we have seen that various anti-epileptic drug combinations are not able to control, and it can be continued for 1 to 2 years, and especially in children they have been found to have a good response. Various surgical options are there which have been found to be very useful in patients of drug resistant epilepsies, and about 20% of drug resistant epilepsies have been found to be requiring these kinds of treatment options, as they fail in most of the drug trial. So, when we decide that a person has to go for surgery, we evaluate adequately these patients, which is known as pre-surgical evaluation, and for which various kinds of tests like functional MRI, ictal SPECT or PET tests are done to see the patients where the site of the lesion, where is the site of epileptic focus, and whether the surgery is not going to add any deficit in the post-operative phase. Now, various kinds of procedures have been recommended depending on the site of epilepsy. In case of large hemispheric lesions, the choice of surgery is obviously hemispherectomy. You disconnect the affected area of the brain, or functional disconnection is also done, which is known as hemispherotomy. And various topectomies or lesionectomies have been tried, and those in whom the lesion is near the speech area, then you cannot remove that lesion, then the subpial transections have been tried in these patients. Then there could be isolated lobar resection in those who have congenital abnormalities like developmental defects. Multiple lobar resections have been tried. Then patients who have uh, generalized epilepsy, but there is no focus in the MRI, there is no lesion. So what to do? In these patients, you disconnect the two brains, you disconnect the two hemispheres by doing callosotomy. In callosotomy, you prevent spread of seizure discharge from one brain to other. So this is a one way of palliative therapy in these patients. So in a nutshell, we have four good options available to us in management of epilepsy patients. Number one obviously remains the medical treatment. You have to diagnose properly the appropriate epileptic syndrome. Then you have to choose appropriate treatment. First drug, second drug, if the two drugs are not able to achieve, then these are the various options available, which include ketogenic diet, which include epilepsy surgery and vagus nerve stimulation. And they have all their merits and demerits. So we have to discuss with the patient the various pros and cons of these therapies. So after discussion, what comes out could be the good option for that individual patient. So, and then last I would say that we should encourage hope, and we should try to ensure that we are able to cure more and more patients of epilepsy with appropriate treatment. Thank you.